The moment I reached for the door handle, my hand started trembling like it already knew I wasn't supposed to leave. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow, and the hallway suddenly felt smaller than it was. I had mastered the art of escape my whole life, walking away before anyone could ask too many questions, before anyone could notice the cracks forming inside me. But that night, she stepped in front of the door and quietly took away the only thing I had always trusted, my way out. The house was warm, filled with the soft hum of evening life, the kind of warmth that usually made me uncomfortable. I had never been good at staying where I felt safe, because safety always felt temporary to me. Growing up, I learned early that comfort could disappear overnight. My father left when I was young, leaving behind silence and unpaid bills. My mother worked herself to exhaustion just to keep the lights on. By the time I was old enough to understand what stability meant, I had already convinced myself it wasn't meant for people like me. That belief followed me into adulthood like a shadow that refused to let go. Every friendship, every opportunity, every moment that looked like happiness came with an invisible timer in my head. I never stayed long enough to see how things ended. Leaving early felt safer than being left behind. Her family never made me feel like an outsider, though. They welcomed me into their home with laughter, loud dinners, and the kind of casual kindness that felt foreign to me. I was supposed to be there just to hang out with her younger brother, someone I had known since college. But over time, I found myself staying longer than planned, lingering in their living room, quietly watching how their family existed so effortlessly together. She was different from everyone else in the house. Older, calmer, observant in a way that made me feel like she could read things I never said out loud. She never pushed me to talk, never forced conversations, but somehow always knew when I was about to leave before the night was over. That evening had started like any other. We had watched a movie, laughed at things that weren't even that funny, and shared food that tasted better because it was homemade. For a few hours, I forgot the weight I carried every day. For a few hours, life felt simple. And that terrified me. Because whenever life started to feel simple, my mind began preparing for the moment it would fall apart. So I did what I always did. I made an excuse, grabbed my jacket, and quietly walked toward the door. No dramatic goodbyes. No lingering conversations. Just another silent exit before anyone could notice how much I was starting to feel. But she noticed. She always did. She stepped into the hallway before I could reach the door, her presence calm but unmovable. The soft light from the lamp behind her created a warm glow around her silhouette, making the moment feel surreal, almost cinematic. For a second, I thought about laughing it off, making a joke, pretending I had somewhere urgent to be. But something in her eyes stopped me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disappointment. It was concern. Real, quiet concern that made my chest tighten even more than before. In that moment, I realized how exhausting it had become to pretend I was okay. I had spent years building walls so high that even I couldn't see over them anymore. I told myself those walls were necessary, that they kept me safe. But standing there in that hallway, facing someone who refused to let me run away again, I began to wonder if those walls had been trapping me instead. The silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable, like a storm waiting to break. My instinct screamed at me to leave, to push past the moment and return to the familiar loneliness that felt easier to manage than vulnerability. But my feet wouldn't move. And for the first time in years, I didn't know what to do. The truth was simple, yet terrifying. I didn't know how to stay. I didn't know how to explain the constant fear of losing everything, the quiet panic that followed me even on the happiest days, the weight of expectations I placed on myself because I believed I had to earn every bit of kindness I received. I had convinced myself that people eventually left, that happiness was temporary, that the safest way to live was to never let anyone get close enough to see how broken I felt. But standing there, unable to escape, something inside me began to crack. And cracks, I learned that night, are how light gets in. Days turned into weeks after that evening, and something slowly began to change inside me. It wasn't a sudden transformation or a dramatic turning point. Change came quietly, in small moments that seemed insignificant at first. Staying longer after dinner. Laughing without immediately feeling guilty. Answering questions without giving rehearsed answers. For the first time, I allowed someone to see the parts of me I had spent years hiding. It wasn't easy. Vulnerability felt like standing in the rain without shelter, exposed and uncertain. There were days I wanted to retreat back into old habits, days when the fear of being hurt felt overwhelming. But every time I felt the urge to run, I remembered that hallway and the quiet strength of someone who refused to let me disappear without a fight. I started noticing things I had ignored before. How good it felt to be asked how my day was. How comforting it was to sit in silence with someone without feeling the need to fill the space with excuses. How healing it could be to admit that I didn't have everything figured out. Slowly, the world felt less heavy. My life didn't magically become perfect. I still had struggles, responsibilities, and moments of doubt. But the difference was that I stopped facing them alone. I learned that strength wasn't about carrying everything by myself. It was about allowing others to stand beside me when the weight became too much. Months later, I found myself standing in that same hallway again. The same door. The same warm light. But this time, the feeling in my chest was different. I wasn't trying to leave early. I was staying because I wanted to. Because for the first time in my life, leaving didn't feel safer than staying. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment right now and leave a comment telling us what part resonated with you the most. Your words might help someone else feel less alone. Life has a strange way of changing us in the quietest moments. Sometimes it only takes one person refusing to let us run away to remind us that we deserve to stay. If this story made you feel something, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Tell us which country you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel and how many hearts they reach around the world.